joined on the line by Mr. Usutuaije Maamberua, who was a former member of parliament, former president of SWANU from 2007 to 2017, and of course also was the chairperson of the Committee on Public Accounts there in parliament. Mr. Maamberua, can you hear me?
Yeah, but can you speak a little bit louder?
Okay, I'll definitely try to speak a little bit louder so you can hear me much clearer. I think we were in the middle of you reflecting on how the former president was part of NANSO, but not NANSO already, but SWANU, but you were saying really he was more a nationalist than anything else.
Indeed, he was. And one area where we remember him, or one incident rather, is the 10th of December massacre of 1959, when after the massacre of the old location, he was summoned to appear before the Hull Commission of Inquiry. He did indeed appear before the Hull Commission, and as a nationalist, an unwavering nationalist, he did not mince his words when answering the Commission of Inquiry as to his participation in the organizing of the demonstrations, the uprising of December 1959. Indeed, admitted that he was part of the organizers, and he was convinced that given another chance, he will continue to organize in order to free his people. So that is, and that was before he left Namibia for exile. That reminds us and gives us trust that his revolutionary activities, his nationalist activities also started long before he went into exile to take up arms.
Before the parliamentary years, I just want us to reflect a little bit during the time that you're working for the administration as permanent secretary. We know, of course, at independence there was that big challenge around propaganda and the role that information had to play in nation building. Just reflect a little bit on his position, his view around information sharing and the ministry that you were heading and the work that you had to do immediately at independence to transform the particular ministry.
I'm not sure whether I can hear you properly because you are not properly audible, but let me try what I gathered from what you are asking. As I already alluded to, that the late Dr. Sam Nujoma was a nationalist. During the first cabinet, his first cabinet after independence, the cabinet was so inclusive, such that he included members of other political parties, even at the level of ministerial positions, specifically the SWANU, when we had the first Director General of the National Planning Commission in the person of late Dr. Z. Gabirwe being the first Director General. You also recall that the first ombudsman in this country was Yarire Tundu Kovongwidi, Advocate Yarire Tundu Kovongwidi, etc., etc. Quite a number of people from different political parties and political convictions. And that is the spirit, the national unity that he was trying to foster, that he was trying to achieve by being inclusive from the word go. For me, of course, I became the first non-SWAPO permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance in 1996. And that was something that was actually unheard of. But that was a time during his tenure as president of Namibia. And as you know, that very sensitive position obviously ought to have been discussed at the level of cabinet. And for him, as being the chairman of the cabinet, obviously he must have played a role in agreeing and in endorsing the recommendation from the Prime Minister then at the time, now the late Dr. Hage Geingob, to have me as a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance. And that is the period and the time when I then was able to meet the president as such. And that is how I came to know him in person.
In terms of his leadership, one of the items that many people mention, of course, is the fact that this culture of political tolerance that we have in Namibia, where anybody can really start a political party or practice their political ideology without being ostracized or being prejudiced. Can you reflect a little bit on his role in terms of shaping the political culture of tolerance that we currently have in Namibia?
Yes, basically, that is going back to what I just said, that from the word go, at the beginning, he did not look at who was a member of what political party. He wanted to unify the country by being so much inclusive. And that, of course, translated into the broader political tolerance that characterized Namibia over the years, because that is something that he implanted in the psyche of the Namibians, such that we tolerate each other, we do things together, and we try to harmonize our vision for the country. And I think he has got a lot to do with such a spirit that was developed in Namibia. And obviously, that is emanating from his conviction as a nationalist, not only in terms of character, but also in terms of his activities and his endeavors and engagements.
Well, going forward, I think in terms of his legacy, how do you think Namibians should remember the founding father, and what is your message to the Namibian nation and the family at large?
Yes, one very important aspect on which we have got to remember him is that, as I said already, he was a visionary. He's the person who came up with a Vision 2030. A Vision 2030 which has actually outlined the different milestones that needed to be met for us to reach, by the time we are going to reach 2030, that we ought to have reached a level of development so high that we have Namibia to be counted as among the high developed countries in Africa. So that was his vision. Whether we're able to take that vision forward, implement it, and realize it, that is up to us. And I think that is then my word for reminding Namibia that though he may be gone now, as we have just been informed, but his vision, the 2030 vision, should be revisited so that we know that that vision was actually meant to transform Namibia for the benefit of all the people of Namibia. So that is one. He had a strong emphasis on education, particularly in the areas of sciences. And that is one area that we should not forget. That is part of his legacy. He actually not only put an emphasis on education, but he demonstrated by himself at an advanced age, going back to the school, to the university, and obtained his master's degree, I think in geology. to be exemplary. And that is a spirit, the inspiration that we ought to have taken from him. And therefore, that is one of the legacies that he leaves behind.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Maamberua, for making time out to speak to us this afternoon.
Maybe my last word.
Perhaps your last words, yes. Please, go ahead.
Goes to the widow, Lady Kovambo Nujoma. My word of condolence also then goes to Honorable Minister Utoni Nujoma, the rest of the Nujoma family, of course to the SWAPO party, and the rest of Namibians, in that we should not forget his legacy and his indomitable revolutionary spirit that should continue to inspire us as we move the country forward. And we should rededicate ourselves to his spirit and his conviction of nationalism in Namibia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maamberua, for making time out to join us.